Good evening and welcome to the Neuse Charter School Board of Directors meeting. Today is November 17th, 2022. This is our meeting that was rescheduled from October 25th, 2022. We will go ahead and establish a quorum. So Nicole is not here yet. Michelle.
Here.
Jason.
Here.
There you go. Thank you. Benji. And Benji's here. He's having mic troubles, but he's here and can hear us. Paul is not here yet, but I am here. So we do have a quorum. And so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Having established a quorum, I call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. on November 17th, 2022. The next thing that I will do is read the ethics statement for the record. Conflict of interest reminder per North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Okay. The next thing on our agenda is reading and approval of the September 27th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. We can read these aloud or silently, or if everyone has read them, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Jason. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so I will go ahead and if there are no corrections, we will go ahead and vote to approve the motion to approve the September 27th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Michelle.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Benji said aye in the chat for the record, and I say aye as well. So the minutes are approved. We had no one sign up for public comment. So, and we do not have any guest discourse this evening. So that brings us straight to correspondence from our authorizer. Do we have any, Dr. Blackwell?
We do not. Just as an aside, though, we will be submitting our charter renewal self-study at the end of this month, which will be the first step towards getting the renewal process started with DPI and OCS.
Great. Thank you for that update. And then we'll just go straight on into your superintendent report then.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. My report this evening is specifically the data report. So I'm going to share my screen if possible. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Is it large enough?
Well, those are. I don't know if we get to individual line items, but I can read that.
Let me know as I go.
Okay. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining.
Hey.
Hold on one second. Sometimes when
We're just getting ready for Dr. Blackwell to start her superintendent's report.
Oh, goodness. Hide. Okay. If I turn off my camera, sometimes it makes it a little easier. Oh, my goodness. There's like 1,000 screens. Do you just see one?
Yes.
Now,
We're
now
done
we
with
just
them.
see one.
Now we just see one.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what in the world just happened. Okay. All right, so this is the News Charter School testing data report, and I am just going to jump right in. I used the same format that I used last year when I reported this data, so it may look familiar to you. I hope so. I hope that it's a bit easier this year to read than it was last year, since you've seen it before. But the contents are where we've been, where we are, and where we will be. The collective data for the last 9 years will be shown. Then I will show you the data from this past school year, along with the beginning of the map data for this current school year. I'll talk about the board level outcome goals and our own campus initiatives. So as you can see on this graph, Noose has had trouble being consistent over the years with their performance. And the colors are easy to show that. So you can see that in 1920, there was no state level testing data because of COVID. The past school year, there was no report card score, but there was a growth score. And Noose had a 57% growth, which means that we met our growth for that year. This past school year, 21-22, there were report card scores. We received a 62, which is a C, and our growth score was a 60%, which according to DPI was not enough to meet our growth. I will dig into those numbers in a bit. Where we are, what I just shared with you was our school performance score, our SPS. So you can see that the total school achievement was a 62.6, rounds to a 63. The total performance score was a 62 because the school achievement score and the school growth score are calculated together. The school achievement score accounts for 80% of our performance score, and the growth score accounts for 20%, which is how we received a 62. So our reading achievement average was a 63.3, and our reading growth was a 63.1. Our math achievement was a 50.2, but our math growth was almost 63. I shared on there the report card scale, just so you can all see where exactly we land within those scales. In order to be an A school, you have to have an 85 or above. To be a B school, it's a 70 to 84. A C school is 55 to 69. And then a D school is anything below a 55. I've linked on here the North Carolina data dashboard, which is just simply where I received and collected this data. Your next slide will show you our EVOS. Couple of things to point out on this. This is a screenshot taken directly from EVOS. EVOS is the system by which the state reports all growth and academic data. So for EOGs in math, 3 out of 5 grade levels met growth. 2 did not. Because those 2 did not, collectively for grades 4 through 8, we did not meet our growth. In reading, 4 out of 6 met growth, but because 4th and 5th grade did not meet growth, and the scores dropped, that means that we did not meet growth for either math or for reading. It was a bit discouraging and disappointing to see these numbers, because as I go through, you'll be able to see that there was a tremendous amount of work that was done and some really great things to be celebrated. But because of these 2 areas in particular, it meant that we were not able to achieve our growth measure per DPI. However, our EOCs looked much better. Our science EOG 5th grade did not meet growth, but our 8th grade exceeded growth. And then for our EOCs in biology, math 1 and math 3, we exceeded growth. And English 2, we met growth.
Melissa, I'm sorry to interrupt. Benji just put in the chat, and I know you're looking at your slides. Do you want us to hold our questions to the end or ask them as you have data up, whichever you'd prefer?
It might be easier to ask as it's up.
Okay. Then I'm guessing that Benji has a question.
Okay.
Yes, I do. For the fourth and fifth grade, sorry I had mic troubles to begin with. I had to switch around a few things here.
That's okay.
For the EVOS data for fourth and fifth grade, and we've had a consistent lack of results there. Is there challenges with our curriculum? Is it instructional quality? Is it experience? What are we seeing as the root cause of that problem? And then second question, I guess, is what are we doing about it? What interventions are we planning, either currently or in the future to address those known gaps?
Sure. Okay. So I can tell you, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is the national reporting system, noted that across the state and across the country, in particular, fourth grade dropped from 2021 to 21-22. So the fourth grade numbers are very much in line with what is being seen across the country, in that they dropped by 5 points in each area. I'll show you later how much we dropped, and I can speak more to what we're doing about it as I continue with the on-campus initiatives. If that's okay, I'll answer that as we go.
Yes, ma'am, that's fine.
Okay.
And I figured it may be best just to hold questions to the end. I just wanted to check and make sure, see which way we wanted to handle it.
Yeah, no, it's fine because there's so much data. To go ahead and ask, and then I can tell you I'm going to hit it next, or I'll go ahead and answer it then. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. So this is, if you'll give me just a moment, I need to log in, but I want to show you the breakdown of our student groups. So again, in looking at this, it's easier to look at the colors in seeing that within each of our student groups and our subgroups per grade level, you can see where we met and where we did not meet growth, as well as where we exceeded growth. So as a whole, we did not meet growth, but within our subgroups of students, many did, and a few exceeded. So for math, you can see that our Black non-Hispanic population met growth, except in fifth grade for math. This is the math section. Our economically disadvantaged students, again, met growth, except for fifth grade. Our Math 1 students within that category exceeded growth. Our Hispanic students were able to meet growth in some areas, but fourth and fifth grade, they did not. Our students with disabilities, we did not meet growth in fifth grade, but we did in sixth grade. Our 2 or more races subgroup, we met growth in fourth grade, not in fifth grade, and again in sixth grade. Our white non-Hispanic population, we did not meet growth in fourth and fifth grade, but we did in sixth and seventh and eighth, and exceeded it in Math 1. Our reading, again, you can look at the colors. This is much more favorable for us. Those same populations met or exceeded growth in all areas, except for our white non-Hispanic population in fourth and fifth grade. And then you can see our science groups, our Hispanic students in fifth grade did not meet growth. Our white non-Hispanic students did meet growth. And in our end of the grade for fifth grade white non-Hispanic, we did not meet growth, but in eighth grade, we exceeded it. So it's important to see this if you want a breakdown of just exactly who is performing and meeting growth and where are some of those numbers coming from. And you can see that, again, it consistently lines up with the struggle that has been mentioned about fourth and fifth grade. So I will go back now and we will continue on. All right, so these are the numbers for grade level proficiency. These are our achievement numbers. And it's always important that you have data points to compare it to. It's nice to know how you're performing compared to other counties and to the state. So this graph will show you, Noose is in blue. It will show you the comparison of how we performed against Wake County, Johnston County Public Schools, and the state as a whole. So we are blue, red is Wake County, gold is Johnston County, and green is North Carolina. So obviously we want blue to be taller than everybody else, and we almost are. In grades 3 through 8, our proficiency was 60%. Wake County was 62%. Johnston County was 56%, and the state of North Carolina as a whole was 52%. For high school, for our EOCs, again, we were at 60% proficient. Wake County, too, was at 60% proficient. Johnston County Schools was 45% proficient, and the state of North Carolina was 50% proficient. So those totals there show you total grade level proficiency between EOGs and EOCs. And we were at 60%. Wake County was at 61. Johnston County was 53. And North Carolina was 51. I made a note down there just as a point of interest for some of you, if you'd like to know, that the top ranked public school system for grade level proficiency was the Chapel Hill Cartwright City Schools, and they had a 71% grade level proficiency. Excuse me. This shows you more detail about how we performed this year versus last year. You're going to start to notice some shifting in numbers now. In this past school year of 21-22, our 3-8 math EOG was 50% proficient. We grew by 5 points. The year before, we were at 45%. For our reading EOGs, we are at 63%, which is a 2-point increase from the 2021 school year. Our science EOG also improved from 73 to 75. Our Math 1 EOC improved from 34 to 40. Our Math 3 EOC really improved from 66 to 74. We did have one area that we digressed in, and that was the English 2 EOC, where we were at an 80% and we dropped to 74. And then in biology, we improved from a 44 to a 54. So that graph again just shows you in blue this past school year versus red the 2021 school year. You can see all of those numbers improved with the exception of English 2. Again, comparative points of interest. The top 3 K-12 North Carolina charter schools. So those schools are Lake Norman Charter, Triangle Math and Science Academy, and Pine Lake Prep. It is important to note that Lake Norman Charter and the Triangle Math and Science Academy are the only 2 K-12 charter schools in the state who scored an A. And the Triangle Math and Science Academy was very close to a B, as you had to have 85 and above. And Pine Lake Prep was very close to an A with an 84. So just noticing some of those numbers, how we are performing in comparison to the top K-12 charter schools in the state. You can see these numbers as well that I just went over. Reading, we're at 63, Lake Norman, 82, Triangle Math and Science, 85. Then it's 50 versus 90, 82, 85. Science, 75 versus 95, 91, 95. Math 1, we're at 40. They're at 71, 66, and 72. Math 3, we're at 74. They're at 76, 90, and 95. Biology, we're at 54. They're at 80, 88, 88, 88, and 86. And then English 2, 74 versus 93, 95, 89, for a total of, for us, a 62, and comparatively an 88, an 86, and an 84. So this next chart just gives you a visual of that. I wanted to show you those numbers first, however, because I want you to kind of better understand what this is and how significant the differences between the top 3 K-12 charter schools in the state and News Charter School. This is just, I find these graphs to be super helpful when I can see how we're doing comparatively in a real quick visual. So we're blue, the number 1 is red, number 2 is gold, and number 3 is green. And you can just take a look at that. Now, this is a lot of information on one slide, and I apologize for it. I really don't want you to read all of the names. What I want to show you is off to the right, those numbers. Those are the school performance scores for the charter schools in the state who scored an A, a B, or a C. You can see that ranges from 88 to 55. And then here's your breakdown. There are 2 A's, 23 B's, 18 C's, 6 D's, and 4 F's. So on the next slide, because I want to speak a moment about growth, bear in mind that if they are highlighted in blue or teal, that means that they exceeded their growth. If they're in green, it means that they met their growth. And if they're in red, it means they did not meet their growth. I would like for you to notice the schools that are red. Pine Lake Prep, the number 3 school in the state, did not make growth. Number 5, Woods Charter, did not make growth. Franklin Academy, Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy, did not make growth. I want to point this out because we were so very excited about the growth that we made in 2021, even though there was really no baseline for that number, because there was no data the year before. We were so excited to have met and exceeded growth in math and reading in 2021. Simply stated, we were able to open our doors. We were able to offer in-person instruction, and we were able to bring our kids back quicker and under a more normal educational setting than a lot of the other schools did. So we were able to continue business as usual, somewhat. Of course, anything being normal is something to laugh at this point, because nothing has come back to being normal. We're all different now after COVID. But with that being said, there were many, many schools that suffered significant growth loss because they had to remain virtual or they weren't able to bring their students back. We were fortunate in that we could. And so the growth that we met was wonderful, and it was worthy of celebrating. And we are continuing to grow. We have not lost any ground. We are continuing in our upward trajectory, but because we didn't make as much as the state thought that we should, because we made so much growth in 2021, they said that we didn't meet growth. We're not the only charter school that happened to. That happened to the number 3 charter school. It happened to Woods Charter, Franklin Academy. So a lot of the schools that were able to open their doors and get back to the business of learning during COVID enjoyed tremendous success of growth in 2021. But then this past school year, because of the growth measure that was created based on that growth, they didn't meet it. And so I just think that this is really interesting information to have and to share. I also want to note that these are the A's, B's, and C's, as I mentioned, and you can see kind of how everybody falls and where those numbers are. We scored a 62, so it puts us kind of right in the middle of that C range. And there are schools that missed it by a point or missed it by 2 points. But this gives you an idea of where we're at for the K-12 charter schools that scored an A, B, and a C. All right, so let's break this down a little bit more into grade levels, because I mentioned when I talked about the EVOS data that you would see these numbers in a little bit more detail, and they are here for you now. So you can see the math scores. The blue is from 21-22, and the red is from 20-21. Again, you want the blue to be higher than the red, and in almost all cases, it is. So let's highlight the good. Look at 8th grade. That was tremendous. We went from 27% proficient to 58% proficient. In 7th grade, by the way, that's a 31-point increase. In 7th grade, they improved tremendously. In 6th grade as well, just really nice growth pattern there of how the students are performing. You can see as well, though, that with 4th and 5th grade, as we've talked about, 4th grade suffered a 9-point digression, and in 5th grade, they suffered a 15-point digression. So significant loss there. And because it was so significant, it actually impacted the other grade levels' growth. So as a whole, we didn't meet the growth. This is the reading that you can now see as well. Again, same pattern here of the improvement over the year. Again, we're blue from 21-22 and red for 20-21. You can see the loss for 4th grade. They went from 64 to 57, which is a 7-point loss. And then in 5th grade, they lost ground by 10 points in reading. But then again, looking at some of the things to celebrate, 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade all tremendously performed and continue to track in the right direction. And also 3rd grade. So I like to share this one because it helps me to see it year over year. And there's just always different ways of looking at data. We use this graph to just help see how the cohorts have moved. So in reading, follow the colors, right? They went from 66 to 57. 4th grade, they went from 64 to 49. 5th grade, they went from 59 to 62. And it just kind of helps you see it in a different way. This is the science EOG. Again, in 5th grade, there was a regression of performance.
No, can you go? I'm sorry. Can you go back to that other slide one more time? Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, you can go ahead. That was super helpful, by the way.
Yeah, I like to look at this one. This for me, it helps me to be able to track them, and then we'll add a column and can continue to see how they go year over year. The next one is science. As I said, there was also a regression here in 5th grade performance. They lost 14 points in their proficiency from a 73 down to a 59, but in 8th grade, they went from 72 to 90. So that was certainly something to be excited and to celebrate. That growth was wonderful to see. For our Math 1 EOC, this is one of the areas in which we exceeded growth. We went from 34% proficient to 40% proficient. This is one of the areas that the state continues also to highlight as a major area of struggle across the board for our schools. Math 3 EOC, again, this is an area in which we exceeded growth in moving from 66% proficient to 74%, and the board wants us at 75. So it is so close to being there. Our biology EOC, again, another area in which we exceeded growth by 10 points from a 44 to a 54. And then our English 2 EOC, where we met our growth, that did drop 6 points from an 80 to a 74, but still the state indicated that we had met our growth measure there. Our graduation rate remains the same at 100%, something that we continue to be very proud of. That is no easy feat these days. And then moving into this current school year. So all of that data was from the past school year, and then I'm going to shift into our MAP data scores for this school year. And I will be
Dr. Blackwell, would this be a good time since you're transitioning to maybe ask some questions about last year, or you want to wait?
yeah, sure.
Okay. I guess my first question would be, in regards to the grade level performances where you had great successes and then and also where we fell rather short. Have you identified, from, disregarding outside factors like COVID or things like that, what was kind of the root cause of the successes and the failures?
Yes, we have. We have.
Okay.
And I would say that there was definitely one of the successes, one of the contributing factors to it was that we had in those courses teachers who were passionate and excited. Not that we didn't in the other ones, but they had been at Noose for a while, and there was some consistency there. There was also some consistency with attendance. We had a lot of sickness in some of our grade levels, and our students weren't able to come as consistently as we needed for them to. So there was that there as well. We did implement a new curriculum in K-5 last year, which could be a part of some of that slump in 4th and 5th grade. That is a research-based term called an implementation slump, where the first year of implementation, some scores will go down, but then they will rebound and come back up once teachers adjust to and become better comfortable and familiar and can implement with fidelity. So those are two.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Dr. Blackwell, have we looked back over the longer history instead of just a 2-year perspective? It looks like we got some back and forth when you look at 2021 versus 21-22. But when I've looked back at the last 6 years, we've got a noticeable decline in most all areas. I think there was one area that was a bright spot. But historically, say like for biology, we were at a 68 over the past from 2013 to 2018, and now we're at a 44 and a 54. There's just there's a steep decline over the last 6 years. What are we doing to get back to our historical performance?
Let me address that when I talk about on-campus initiatives, but I hear you. The reason why I didn't pull any other data aside from this is because we recognize that after COVID, the numbers were significantly different than pre-COVID. And so if I've been in a DPI webinar that has told me, don't compare this to any other years, I have been in at least 5 that have said, prior to 2019, you need to be real specific and focus on post-COVID scores because of learning loss, because of the impact on learning. So that is why I am presenting this data. And then additionally, this is the data for which I am responsible for. Prior to, up until May of 2020, that data was not something that I oversaw, but moving forward, this is. And so that's also why I am presenting it in this way, if that's helpful.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. We'll go into how we're performing versus the national norm on MAP testing. So we do our MAP testing each year. We do it 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And those numbers help us track our students' performance growth and areas for improvement. You can see that we are outperforming the national norm in all areas except for 2nd grade reading, and that is by just a few tenths of a point. So that is encouraging to see when you look at where the national norm standard says we need to be versus where we are. So that means that we are doing better than the standard in terms of our beginning of the year, entering into the school year ready to learn scores for reading. Math, as expected, there are some that are lower than the national norm, but you can look at just how close that is and see that it is not a significant statistical difference in first grade, second grade, and in sixth grade. Sixth grade is not surprising considering the struggles that fifth grade had as that group moves into sixth grade. We know that there was an expected deficiency in that area, and that did not. That's exactly what happened with beginning of the year. But it gives us a benchmark for which to work that we can then test again, which we will be testing MAP data in December. So I will have some more information for you about that in the coming months to let you know where we are at versus where we started at the beginning of the year. So where will we be? Progress towards the board level outcome goals, what are we doing about it, and then connecting it all back to the strategic plan. So as you all know, the board voted on approving the performance goals for our school. And I have put those in black and I have responded to them in blue. So I'm just going to go through them. I won't read this to you word for word, but it is going to be kind of close. The first was that we would rank in the top 25% of K-12 charter schools by the end of the 21-22 school year. And we did not make that goal. In order to make that goal, we needed to be in the top 13, and we were in the top 21, which is the top 39%. It is an improvement from 2021 because we were in the top 50%. So there is movement in the right direction. It just didn't happen fast enough. The next goal is something that will be evaluated in 23-24, which is that we will rank in the top 10% of all charter schools. And that will be evaluated at the end of the 23-24 school year. We will score a B or higher on the school performance grade as determined by the end of this past school year, 21-22, and we did not make that goal. We've scored a C, 62. And in order to be a B, we need to be at a 70. So we were 8 points short of meeting that goal. Continuing on, our absolute.
On the
Yes.
previous slide, at the beginning of the presentation, we saw one where the schools were listed and Noose was 33rd out of 53. And this is saying that we're 21 out of 53.
I grouped them based on the score. So as if they had tied for that number. I wasn't really sure how to report that, but that was how I did it. So if there's a discrepancy there, we can certainly look at it.
All right. Yeah, it looks like we were dropped from 28 to 33, but the number did increase too from 50 schools comparing against 53. So it was a decline instead of an improvement. So just
I will look at
make
that.
sure it's
Thank
matched
you
up.
for pointing it out. Yeah, thank you
All
for pointing it out. Okay, moving on, our absolute goal. Again, the expectation was that we would be at a 75% GLP, grade level proficiency, and we were at a 60%. It was 15 points below our goal. You can see on this slide in particular that 2021, we were at 57% proficiency. We moved to 60% proficiency, which is a 5-point increase. 5% increase. So again, tracking in the right direction, just not moving fast enough. Just for your information as well, the MAP projections predicted that we would be at 66% proficiency, and EVOS predicted 63. So both of those were projections. There were predictions based on performance. This school year, our MAP projections and EVOS both predict 60% total proficiency. So I just want you all to be aware of those numbers and to know that that's the current predictions. MAP will change mid-year. And so we can update that number to let you know where it's projecting us to land. But right now, that's what that looks like.
Looks like last year we had a 6% negative correlation between our MAP and EVOS projections versus the EOG EOCs. Do we expect that, negative correlation to continue for this year?
I sure hope not.
So it looks like we may be trending in the wrong direction if that pattern continues.
Agreed.
Sorry, Benji. Did you have
I'm good.
another follow-up?
No,
Okay.
that's it. I just trying to match those up with the difference in the projection versus the actuals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dr.
Can I-
Blackwell, those map projections, are they from established the beginning of the year, middle of the year?
They are what we look at them in the middle of the year. So that map projection of 66% was the middle of the year from last year. Right now, all we have is the beginning of the year for this year, so that's why it's showing 60.
Okay.
That was going to be my question as well, Michelle. We're not really comparing apples to apples in this because we don't have the middle data yet. When you update that, will you put that back? Remind us about the 2021, 2022, projections when we're comparing apples to apples. I appreciate you sharing what you have, but does that make sense,
Mhm.
Dr. Blackwell?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. School growth goal. So this again is an area that we were supposed to achieve a goal by the end of this school year that we would meet or exceed the growth standard. And we did not meet it. While we did improve by 3 points and our math growth score was 13 points higher than our math achievement score, we did not make growth. And I've already kind of gone through that a bit with the EVAS data and then those charts. Progress towards our mission specific goal in that students will demonstrate the following traits shown in the portrait of a new student. This is the same format that I used last year in which I highlight evidence, I share evidence of work towards being a communicator, a collaborator, a creative and critical thinker, goal-directed and resilient, ethical and global citizen, and adaptable and flexible. These are the 6 characteristics that we are expecting all of our graduates to possess fully by the time they finish their tenure at News Charter School. So I will show you that we are excited to, I hope this works, share that we do have a debate team led by Mr. King, that we are working towards that goal of communication. Collaborator. We had our high school zoology students partner with first graders to learn more about certain animals. And this is a picture of that. Creative and critical thinker. We were able to help our students in 8th grade in particular work through possible career fields, and we're able to take them to the JOCO Works program at JCC, in which they were exposed to some of those career fields. But this is one of a student who is interested in creative arts, and so he had a chance to use the virtual reality to cut something with that saw that you see there on that screen. Goal directed and resilient. This is a picture of our kindergartners who were able to set goals in their class and then earn their Cougar Cash and spend it on things. They were able to earn their Cougar Cash based on good deeds that they did, scores that they were able to achieve on their work. And this is just a picture of this that happened in Miss Browning's classroom. Ethical and global citizens. There are countless examples of this, but I will share this one that when our sweet student was struggling, we rallied around and the students took it upon themselves to do a lot of things. And there's not a day that goes by that we can't walk through our building and see one of these blue shirts. And then adaptable and flexible. This is simply a picture of our graduate, Robert Hill, who is now training in the reserves. He actually came back and spoke with our students a couple of weeks ago about his experience and to just teach them some lessons about how important it is to be resilient and adaptable and to pivot in a moment. He did a tremendous job of kind of talking through some things with them, but I wanted to definitely highlight that because he's an alumni that came back to share his time with us. But these are just a few quick examples of things that are being done and that will continue to be done as we work towards achieving this mission specific goal. So what are we doing about it? Well, it's all about accountability, right? It's a collective effort, and it continues to focus on raising the bar. Again, we are tracking in the right direction based on the data from last year, but we are not moving as fast as we need to move. So what are we doing about it? And we're going to continue to provide high levels of support with high expectations, and continuing with our teacher performance rubric that we had approved by the board and by the state. We will continue with our actionable steps. I can show this to you. This is our roadmap for success. I know I need to zoom in because I know it is small. Does this help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I will talk through some of these as I keep going, but just so that you all know that we do have a document that is guiding everything that we do with the focus on the strategies from our strategic plan and then the action steps that we have outlined in that as well. So what you see is, for example, focus strategy number 2, we will implement strategies to raise collective teacher efficacy by implementing all academic and operational improvements with 100% accuracy. That's the focus strategy that's outlined in the strategic plan, and the action step is also outlined in the strategic plan, but the bulleted points are the areas of which we are taking on to make improvement. So for this one, it's to provide common planning as much as possible, implement PLC protocols, utilize MTSS, tutoring, and Title I support, and monitor student growth 3 times a year with MAP testing and with IXL data. Implement key strategies of Santoyo's leverage leadership, which is data-driven instruction, observation and feedback, instructional planning, professional development, student culture, staff culture, leading the leaders. And so it just goes on, but I want you all to see this because it's important to know that we aren't just continuing on as if, our scores are fantastic. We are being very intentional about what we are trying to do and the ways in which we are doing it. And this is our guiding document that helps us to do that. It is linked in this presentation for you all if you want to kind of really dig into it. But we have intentionally planned around how to continue our commitment and focus on continuous improvement. And this is that document. We have a consistent and aligned leadership team that's in place. We focused on customer service and culture. At the beginning of the year, we had trainings on that. I'll talk about that more in just a moment. We've implemented a 7-period day to remove gaps in knowledge for grades 6 through 12, which we do believe will be helpful. It is a key component of the top performing K-12 charter schools in the state. Intentional scheduling of curriculum assistance classes and enrichment intervention time for K-5. Just recently, we've restructured the 612 CA classes so that there is some flexible grouping so that they can sit and do some work within IXL, which is a skill-based program that provides individual attention to skills that students can practice and work through individually during their CA classes. And so that has been spearheaded by Ms. Conley and Mr. Matisoff, and they have done a tremendous job of getting everybody in place and holding everyone accountable. And it's been wonderful to see them take that lead. Implementation of the JCC partnership, in which we have on-campus JCC courses. The implementation of the AIG program, and then we do have and are working towards a K-12 math tutoring support program. As you can see, our scores in math, our proficiency is lower than in reading. And so we have had planning meetings and are working towards grouping students K-12 and implementing a tutoring program. Samantha Dunn has been instrumental in making that happen as well. I think it's important that we highlight those who are going the extra mile to help make Noose what it can be. So again, the sustained focus is on our strategic plan. Just as a reminder for you all, these are the 3 critical objectives that we said that we would be achieving by the end of 2024, and that we will ignite student performance and eliminate needless gaps in student achievement. Will reflect the cultural attributes common to high-performing K-12 schools, and will embody the values defined in the school portraits. So I just want to show you some very specific things on what we have done so far. In, excuse me, just a moment. In focus strategy number 1, talking about professional development, teacher training, high caliber curriculum, what have we done in that area? So we continue to focus on visible learning, and we continue to ask our staff to complete that Canvas course that Dr. Schwartzlander built. We have 16 new teachers who have and are working towards that course being completed by January. The first week back at school, we hit the ground running. August 1st, teachers return, and we focus that entire day on culture, customer service. The next day, we focused on Eureka Math training and raising the bar with instruction, scope and sequence collaboration in the Upper Academy. On Wednesday, there was Wonders and IXL training and a study sync planning session. On August 4th, there were special programs training, positive behavior intervention support, and student social emotional learning trainings. Moving on, this again is just a list of things that we have been working through. We had mentor training for our BTs in July. We sent a teacher to Campbell for the financial literacy course in June. Just kind of jumping around. We had in September on the 21st, which I think was a very powerful training for many. We asked Miss Nowinski, Miss Alexander, who's a 2nd grade teacher, to teach lessons, and our staff actually observed them using the teacher performance rubric that is used to evaluate each teacher's performance. So they were given the opportunity to actually step into admin shoes and evaluate teachers. And I think that it was very enlightening and eye-opening for them. I had the great fortune of being able to lead one of those follow-up discussions. And I think it was very helpful to see the other side for them and understanding that we really are working to raise the bar, and being held accountable is not always fun, but it is absolutely critical to achieving these goals. Another list of specific things that we have already completed this year related to collective efficacy is the data-driven PLCs. And you can just see again a list of bulleted things that have been completed and we continue to work on, not just check and be finished, but we're continuing to work on those. So you can read through those, but some of those are just those weekly Teaming on Kids meetings in K-5, where we discuss students and student performance, the Upper Academy PLC schedules, where they have their conversations about content, student performance, departmental planning, vertical alignment, continuation of our MTSS program, and continuation of our Title I program with our highly qualified coaches who are pushing in to classrooms and who are pulling out kids for extra support. And then our AIG program, in which we are in the process of identifying students and getting that program started, but the pull-out enrichment will begin very soon. And that's going to continue to push our high-achieving students higher by providing those struggle opportunities for them. One of the toughest areas for growth in schools is that upper high-achieving group, continuing to push them higher and higher and higher. And I'm thrilled that we have this program now that we can be very specific and intentional about pull-out services for them to make that happen. The evaluations for the teacher performance rubric and the visible learning, as I stated, we had the opportunity to have our staff assess a lesson led by their peers and by Ms. Nowinski. And we are working through observations now. So you can see some of that data is here that they were focused on domains 1 and domain 2. Domain 2 and domain 3. Domain 2 is focused on rigorous instruction, and 3 is about a rigorous learning environment. So we are continuing to focus in on those areas within the observations that are being conducted. In the domain 2 classroom instruction, our teachers were scoring a 1.75 out of 2, and in domain 3, they're scoring a 1.13 out of 2.0. There's a typo there. Again, in this quarter, their full lesson observations are being conducted and will be conducted. And we do have 8 teachers who have to use the NESIS program for their licensure with the state. Another part of the work that we are continuing to do and being intentional is our focus on community engagement. Just last night, we had our Upper Academy Curriculum Night, in which students and parents were invited to school, and they traveled. It was almost a day in the life of their child. So they could come in and visit each of their classes and travel their schedule, meet with their teachers, have some questions answered, learn more about what they've been doing and what they will be doing. And we've never done that before, at least while I've been here. And so we're very excited to get some feedback from our staff and from our families to critique that, improve that, and then continue to use that as a community engagement piece for our families. But in addition to that, we've continued with our student-led parent-teacher conferences. And I just wanted you all to see that the attendance for those are listed down there at the bottom. And so you can see the number decrease across the years. Kindergarten, they had almost every parent that they had a chance to meet. That went down a little in first grade. It went up a little in second grade, and then it dropped in third, fourth, and fifth. You get to middle and high school, and again, those numbers drop. So we are working very hard to engage our families and get them here. And I know that our staff has been working really hard as well, trying to build rapport with not only our students, but with our families, because that is a really big part of this, is being able to bridge that home to school gap, in which students are able to go home and take some time to focus on their studies and reinforce what has been taught to them at school during the school day. And so that's really important for us, that we have parent engagement. And I think COVID really did a number on some of that based on, what I've learned about NEWS. And so we are trying very hard to restore that as we go. So those are very specific items of things that we have done and things that we are going to continue to do. And at this point, that is where I will say thank you for listening to all of that, and then answer any other questions that you may have.
Anybody have any other questions for Dr. Blackwell? Thank you so much for presenting all of that very detailed, really important data to us. Appreciate you taking the time to go through that. And I'm sure as board members have an opportunity to look at it, there may be additional questions, but very grateful to you for pulling all of that together and for the work you did to explain it to us as you went through, because there was a lot of meat in there. So I think, board members, feel free if you end up with questions after having an opportunity to look at it in more detail. I'm sure Dr. Blackwell would be fine with you reaching out to her, but also our next board meeting is in a week and a half. So I think we could probably address questions at that point as well. All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Blackwell. Appreciate it. Now let's move on to the financial report. And that's something that you're going to address as well, Dr. Blackwell, correct?
Mr. Gipe and I were able to briefly connect.
Okay.
So we do have a little bit to share. Jason, do you want to do that?
Well, I can. Really, just one thing that I wanted to kind of talk to the board about. I don't think we need a motion on. Dr. Blackwell and I talked. I don't think we need a motion on it, but and Benji and I have talked about this as well, and we've had email exchanges back and forth with our auditing firm, Acadia. So we have the PayPal account that in the past the treasurer has been the one has authorized and moved money back and forth. And since we have new governance and new structure where we're more of oversight, that we needed to transfer that back over to the schools authority, and we went through the proper channels and cleared that through Acadia, and they're okay with it. So again, I don't think it's not necessarily a motion, but something that we wanted to be transparent about and make sure we communicated to the board meeting.
Okay, great. So just to make sure that I'm understanding, that the school will be handling that now simply, but it'll be, excuse me, included in what you see from an oversight perspective.
Yes. So see, Jane, I'm too long-winded. Thank you.
No. I'm glad you gave more detail. I was just making sure that my summary, my understanding was appropriate. So
Got it.
And the other thing to note, and I know board members know this, but just in terms of the financial implications, since Robbie tendered his resignation from the board, and he was the person who was our primary check signer, including for payroll. Benji, who is already listed as one of our check signers, has agreed to take over and do that as the primary check signer. And also Paul has agreed to take Robbie's position on the Financial Oversight Committee. So both of those are related to the financial oversight of the school. And I just wanted to share those transitional items for the record.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else in terms of financial report, or we're good?
Now, I think Dr. Blackwell is going to go through some of the numbers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen again. I know this is little. Let me get it bigger. Okay. So this is the October report for where things stand right now. We noted our budgeted surplus last month. That's always just going to be a standing number on this report. Currently, we are at a deficit of a little over $300,000. That is simply because we have not begun receiving our county payments. And that is expected to happen by the end of October. So I haven't checked to see, but I will have a report for you in a week and a half to update you on what we have received. As of the date of this report, which was September 30th, we had only received 30,000 of the 1.6 million that we are owed. So you can all just be aware of that.
So it says by the end of October. Would that be the end of November?
So the November report will be for the end of October.
So it says we will begin receiving county payments by the end of October.
Yes, we should begin receiving them by the end of October. And I didn't update this beyond September 30th.
Because this is the makeup October meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So in November, I will have an update for you.
Okay.
In November. We are in November. In a week and a half, I will have an update for you on what this looks like and what we have received. But yeah, I didn't make any changes to this. So I could reflect October information, even though we're in November.
So basically the numbers are a month in arrears, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay.
And you can see down there, as asked, the account balances as of the end of September. Again, looking at a little over 1.6 million in our operations account, the 50,000 that has to be in a retirement escrow account for the state, and then a little over $850,000 in contingency funds, which puts us at a little over $2.5 million in our accounts. So that is your financial report as of September 30th. I will present to you an updated report for our November 29th meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions on the financial report? Okay, thank you, Dr. Blackwell and Jason. Moving on to our standing committee reports, the governance committee, Michelle.
So the governance committee did not meet, but we are meeting on November the 29th at noon. As we know from our old bylaws to our new bylaws, there was significant changes as far as how we select new board members. Given the vacancy that has opened, the governance committee is going to meet just to kind of talk about and to come back to the board. Do we want to open the board up for nominations for new board members? And then what would that look like? Our old bylaws and had a very specific spelled out method of opening the nominations for new board members. Our current bylaws do not have that level of specificity, which is good. But this will give us an opportunity to discuss and kind of come up with some ideas as to how we may be interested in pursuing new board members or opening the floor for nominations for new board members. So that's what we're going to meet about on November the 29th, and then hopefully be able to come back to the board with some, suggestions, thoughts, and get some, feedback from the board as well. Full board.
I do think, and this is a question, and you don't need to answer it tonight, but if when you guys meet, my reading of the new bylaws is that we do need to open up for at least one position, since we are at 6 members, and I think 7 is the minimum in our new bylaws. But the question as to whether to open, to consider adding additional members, I think is open as well. But is that something you remember, for sure off the top of your head? If not,
I think you're right, Jane, but
Okay.
I don't have them in front of me right now.
okay. Well,
It's been a
when
hot
you guys,
minute since I looked at them.
yeah, sure. Well, when you meet, if you could just clarify that for the full board, so that when we are talking about, the processes, and how we're going to approach that kind of, also in terms of numbers, that'd be great. So, okay. Anything else?
That is all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Financial Oversight Committee, I'm thinking that we did that under the financial report, so we're good there. Risk Management Oversight Committee, did you all meet?
No action from our committee.
Okay, thank you, Benji. All right, and our ad hoc committees, Facilities Committee, Dr. Blackwell, did you guys meet?
We did not.
Okay, just for the rest of the board members, Robbie and Dr. Blackwell and I are working to find a date and time in the coming weeks. Most likely, it may not be before our November meeting, but in the coming weeks to meet to talk about transition planning for the Facilities Committee, since he was leading that. And we will update you if we are able to. We're going to try to meet before our next meeting, but with the holiday and everything, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that or not. So I'll have, at the very least, I'll have an update by then of when we're going to meet. But if we've been able to, I can give you an update at that point.
Yeah. Can I throw something in real quick on that?
Absolutely.
I have been approached by a couple parents that I know that there is some excitement and really they're like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's going on? And I kind of wanted to share it with the rest of the board that if anything we communicate the good news and the good stories about some of that action that's going on. I think we got a lot of excited parents about what's next and how they can help. So just wanted to pass that along for the future of the facilities committee.
That's wonderful. There are lots of ways that excited parents can help. Happy to hear that. That's really good. That's really good to hear, Jason. Thank you for sharing that. And then the strategic planning committee, Benji, did not meet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. We had no unfinished business. At this point, I do just briefly want to publicly thank Robbie for his service to this board. He resigned due to schedule and kids and to be able to spend time with his family. And obviously we support that. And I just publicly wanted to thank him for his many, many, many years of service on this board and to News Charter School. We're grateful for everything that he did, and he's been wonderful in working with us through the transition time. So just wanted to say that. We do not have any new business on the schedule, nor do we have any ongoing board development and self-assessment. So at this time, I will can open the floor for a motion to go into closed session for personnel discussion per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6.
So moved. Oh, second.
Okay. Benji made the motion. Jason seconded. I will read call the roll for votes. Nicole.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Benji.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. I will see you all in closed session. Okay. We are back in open session. After leaving closed session, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Wonderful. All right. Thank you all very much. The motion passes. This News Charter School Board of Directors meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:13 p.m. Thank you all very much. Have a really great evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.